check-in for Gateway 2, Reclaiming Your Wild Self. So this is significant for me because, as you may recall, 2014 was my wild and free year. Probably the year where my word of the year practice had been going solidly, keeping it in mind, for 3 years. Sparkle, courage over comfort, wild and free, and they layer on each year, and they're quite significant for me. And obviously I hit the road. It's the most literal I had ever taken, wild and free, and I found it really fascinating. I'm mainly focusing on the question, what does living in your creative power mean to you, and the significance for me of the first, well, probably 3 sessions of the Gateway, for so many reasons. Too many things, as always. So I loved what Linda said about quiet power in the first call. And I have a theory, whether you're talking spirituality, source, creative power, or whether you're coaching someone, you're into personal development, and people have been people pleasers their whole lives, you know, notoriously bad at maintaining boundaries. When you first start to step in your power, when you first start to lay boundaries, it's quite typical to fumble your way along or need quite an extreme first try at doing it. Let's say you never say no. You might not put it the best way the very first time you do, or you may absolutely turn yourself inside out with how you feel and the guilt you feel. An example that comes to mind is when people put up with too much and never ever complain. They're out at a shop or a restaurant, and the very first time they complain, quite rightly, about whatever happens, they're blustery or they're overly rude to the staff or something. So I think sometimes it's a bit like a cork coming off, and so I feel like there's that transition phase, which could be anything from weeks to years, where you are practicing the ready stance, that priestess ready stance in the center of the circle, that that comes to mind from, what's her name? I've blanked on one of my favourite people and her wonderful circle drawing. Mary. Oh, shoot. Okay, I've got to stop thinking about it. You may remember me talking about how I'm going to use her. Mary, is that Mary McDowell? Mary. Wah! The circle diagram that she came up with, I said I would keep in my mind because I quite like having a visual that can very quickly get me into, communicate something to me. And I imagined coming back to my priestess self in the center of that, and that ready pose with the soft knees that we talked about, where you're ready for blows, or you can bend with the wind, and that makes you stronger than being stiff. Anyway, so I just found it quite interesting. For me, that first session illuminated to me how far I've come since the embracing of and trying on of wild and free. I was very, very, very much yearning for something, and really what it all boils down to is the I'm losing everybody's names. This is driving me mad. Clarissa Pinkola Estes philosophy of us being so tamed and domesticated. And so what I was seeking was ways to be me. I mean, I think that's what we're all doing. And priestessing is whatever our gifts, particular sensitivities are, the things we're especially attuned to, are how we might priestess in the world. Sometimes it's what we needed most in our lives that we end up priestessing. You know, I talk a lot, don't I, about permission giving, because I don't notice until that I've been holding myself back a little bit or not going all in until somebody else gives me the permission I'm kind of giving myself. I know I want to and I'm nearly there, and then something someone says or does just shifts that last little barrier that I didn't realise I was resisting. And it's an extra layer of permission giving to let go, to be unapologetic, to invariably it's be yourself wholeheartedly. So I found, that what this showed to me, this whole conversation we had and people wanting to define that creative power, when Linda said about quiet power, I remembered how I started with, like I had a Pinterest board for my Wild and Free, and a lot of women who run with the wolves. There were wolves and wild animals around women dressed like Tarzan, female versions of Tarzan, you know, feathers in the hair, maybe very boho-y. I was always okay with not looking on the outside. I didn't need to role play in that sense. But it's funny how since that first year that I hit the road, I have got the feathered earrings. People have bought them for me. Not just, I don't know whether I gave that away or whether it was my love of feathers, because I've communicated that, but feathers and beads. And now, practically speaking, I'm really okay with the, we talked a lot about this last year and this year on what, you know, you might decide, I can't be a priestess, I don't look that way, or this is unattainable to me, or I'm stick thin and I only see voluptuous figurines, or, you know, of the goddess, that kind of stuff. I've been okay with the fact that I'm a pet sitter. I don't have a lot of money or space being nomadic for a big wardrobe, and I'm a pet sitter. So dogs are very heavy-handed when they paw at you. Cats have needle-like claws. I'm okay that I live in jeans and I've gone practical for my outerwear. And I can keep in mind that there's yearnings for the softness and for feeling the softness on the clothes. And so where do I want to be mindful in embodying what I want to embody? Because I'm also very aware that looking not too rad on the outside, I still have not dyed my hair pink and I've wanted to do that for a while, keeps my family and extended family and the people who've known me for a while happy. You know, it's not rocking any boats. I'm aware that that's a thought, so I check in on myself, but I don't need to become a caricature of something to feel it. And this, talking of quiet power, reminded me how I needed this Pinterest board of the exaggerated representation of wild woman, and it's sometimes it's kind of exaggerated in some form initially, and that the more you embody it and the more you embody it and the more you grow into your own skin, the less you need to prove by things you do or by how you look or by what you say. So that power, I believe, does become and look quieter because you're just channeling it. All that matters is about what's actually going on, the energy moving on the inside. Power versus force, I guess, is the key there. So I feel like I can now be at ease with the and space. It's not like needing to prove or necessarily even do anything. Being in my power sometimes is not doing, and I'm okay. It's sitting with the silence. So buying myself time in a conversation, I'm not being led by someone else's speed and tone. And if I don't want to engage in gossip or something I perceive they say is negative, if I'm just quiet, I don't shake my head and I don't nod, I don't disagree, but I certainly won't agree, I won't partake of the game. Sometimes staying quiet leaves their words and the energy hanging in the air, and I found that by doing nothing, you sometimes get closer to what you desire, which is the end of that more toxic stuff happening. So I find it really intriguing that this was a very different perspective to last year, the year before. You know, it's really how I feel like I'm really grown into it and expanded into it. And I wrote down it's far more about expansive mind, which is why I feel it's quiet power, not so much doing. So I just wanted to speak of that because it's this whole year has been more subtle and inward, and I've been more quiet. I don't know if you've noticed, because when I do contribute, I think I seem to stand out, so people remember it a lot. I actually haven't spoken as much. I was always overflowing with so many things I wanted to say in sessions last year, and the more powerful the session has been, the quieter I've been. I've not been able to. It's taken some time. You know, it's doing stuff in my cells at the moment, and until the session's over, I can't yet translate that into some thoughts and some words and things. So I've just noticed that, and I haven't had a problem with it or beaten myself up over it when I've stayed quiet. There's too many things and I've got to keep this short, so what bits do I choose to say to you? I'd just like to thank Vanessa. So I call my vision process now resonance. I use a book. I've done this even before I hit the road because I want to do the practice regularly. So rather than have a dream board on the wall for a while, I am, 1 month, 1 moon, new moon, full moon, it changes. I may want to do a page about my business. I maybe want to do a page about my internal growth. Maybe I wing it. That happens quite often and I don't know what it will be about. And I like being able to do a vision page regularly or spread. So I use a book. Now, since I hit the road, that's more relevant. And if I do want something up, I can prop the book up. So, and I teach it, but I call it Resonate. My program for the year-long vision book is called Resonate. And I call them resonance pages. And like yoga off the mat, I'm thinking more of resonance. Didn't initially, when it was first created, I liked the words. It was just this thing that happened. And then it's evolved to be a little bit more art journaling. Like I'm really allowing my creativity to come into my coaching, my spiritual world. It's my Priestess practice. A bit that I've battled with, and to be honest, because it feels so enjoyable to do, I'm very aware of that part of me, the long conditioned, it's not work and you can't earn a lot from it if you haven't put in tons of hours, suffered, worked hard, earned a sweat, got your sweat on. Do you know what I mean? So that's really interesting that I'm noticing how I'm wanting much more to do more creativity than coaching and other things. Love the healing, love the card readings, but it's all the very soft and gentle stuff like that, creativity. And there was a part of me, has been a part of me, I'm not sure it's all cleared, that it's like, but maybe you should, like you've always meant to be a coach, you've always identified, always, whenever I discovered the world of coaching and I thought, that's what I've always done, but my holistic form of, I think as I needed for my soul and my overwhelmed brain, because there's a lot I've gone through internally since hitting the road and there was a lot I needed to do, there wasn't enough capacity to be full-on life coach in the more traditional ways. Or you'll know what I mean, I think, from your transition from the bicycle and that world that is still the one that pleases my dad. I don't know how to put it. You know, there's still that whiff of corporate. Like you're seen to be doing something. It's easier, relatable to the men in your life. I don't know. And that's the most influential. I'm closer to my dad. I've always been close to my dad, and I've not had the best relationship with my mum, who's not been able to be there for me. So he's going to be the biggest influence, and the Heathers, the non-spiritual side of the family, are going to be the most influential to me. So I'm seeing in this last year, particularly, lots of that still clinging on conditioning and pleasing and like don't roll the boat and don't do things that people just don't understand, and you know, I can't be bothered with answering the questions with, you know, to explain what I do, because it's so fluid, it's so dynamic, there's no one sentence elevator pitch for, and I thought I'd healed that. I thought I'd moved through that. So it's really interesting, layers, spiral, whatever you want to consider, that I'm noticing this. However, I've spent far too long saying that. I wanted to thank Vanessa for saying, us being in our creative power is taking action, making change, because I think I have held back my creative practice, and without realizing that I had decided it was a bit self-indulgence, or I hadn't earned it. There was something I needed to let go of to really free myself up for some real good momentum building. One thing that's helped me get there is my Priestess practice. I chose yoga, writing and creativity as my daily practice, and have stuck to it. Not daily, I'd say 5 times, minimum 5 times a week since the beginning of the Priestess program, when we set our daily practices. I've never done that before. I have never kept it going. You know, I had an issue, so calling it a practice has helped. I'm okay with practice now. I think I wasn't before, and I had to call it ritual or something, didn't I? I'm cool. Now, so one is actually doing it, just doing it no matter what, because I set myself this challenge, project, task, whatever you want to call it. The yoga and sticking with the yoga, I think, has helped. I'm slow and deep breathing at least in the mornings when I do my practice. I'm stretching the body and I'm keeping embodied, and I'm living and breathing in tune with my breath. I'm being in tune with my breath, and I think it helps my body stay aligned, which helps me stay centered and so on. And then that again was a click of permission that I was like, thank you. It's the kind of thing I wanted to tell myself and kind of was telling myself, but I think so I want to adopt the new thought, and my new thought was that me being creative, if I go a whole week and I've not coached anybody informally or formally, and I've not done any Reiki healing, and I've not done a reading for someone, that me just being creative that week was enough of a practice, was me priestessing, was me doing something good for this world, because of that alchemy of energy that it does, which is just amazing what state it puts you in. I knew that was okay, and I wanted to adopt that, but I hadn't gone consciously enough to explore where my resistance was to that. And it was only when you said those words in the first session that I let myself go that next little step with it. Somebody else said that us being in our creative power is taking action, because I cannot currently, I'm not saying this will be ever, but I cannot currently stand on streets, join protests, or positive activism even, or watch too much of the news and that kind of thing. There's a lot of self-protection that I do as part of my self-care. And I think it will always be an ongoing practice of not feeling guilty about that. I believe you understand that. We've spoken in many sessions in different gateways. We've touched on it even lightly. So that was quite important, because I think that's how I can stop and block my power, is when I'm just feeling like, is it the ultimate enoughness, isn't it? Am I enough? Am I doing enough? And I think that's okay, because I actually think what's more important is that we heal. So thoughts that feel good, I'm more resistant to adopting, because it feels like, am I just kidding myself, fooling myself, telling myself what I want to hear? So I just wanted to thank you for saying being in our creative power. You could call it being in priestess mode. You could call it anytime I'm thinking thoughts for the collective, anytime I'm asking for something, or saying a prayer, or giving gratitude, painting, scribbling, free writing, doing yoga is enough. Any time that I'm doing those things and moving energy in that positive way. I jotted down something that stood out to me, which there's a couple of things I wasn't expecting in the Reclaiming Your World Self, particularly in that first session that we had. The word exhale, release, and balance was mentioned so many times in that first call. Finding a balance, and there are people who talk about, I don't believe in balance. They're talking about a whole different thing, which is that, like, you can equally play, work. Okay, I think we single task, and I think there'll be times for getting our head down and working on the next thing that our business is going to put out there, or whatever. What I consider to be balance would be that when I've done 1 month solid worked too many hours, maybe not slept enough, I'm very, and that course is ready, or you're at launch phase, I would then be very, very conscious of replenishing my body, my spirit, my mind, switching off from technology, sleeping a lot more, whatever it may be. So my idea of balance, we were kind of more talking energy and things, but exhaling, releasing and surrendering, not needing to be on all the time. I just thought that's really interesting, that it's something I wouldn't have expected, exhale, release, balance, to come up in the conversation. And also the fact that we end up talking about purpose, that I wasn't expecting, because that again spoke to this thing that is art. I'm being called. It is the quiet voice inside. It's the quietest voice. I'm being called to engage in creativity much more. I'm not fully yet, I'll be honest, giving myself permission to do that as much. I've still got some resistance to it. So this is early stages. This module, this gateway has helped me start just getting really conscious that was happening, and that to move through it and do the things and hear the things and read the things that help me to believe that. When we then, and I think we are ready for it, because I know another thing I made a note of in this gateway was how much already, just in gateway 2, snake has come up, snake medicine has come up. Butterfly comes up for that sort of early and it's soft, gentle part of the first transformation many people see will start to be butterfly. But I'm noticing how snake came up in your power page. So, you know, you did start last year. I remember Heather mentioning things. People had particular cards, but it came up a few times. But I find it really interesting. I think that the women who have done this program for more than 1 year are lifting the whole group to be able, and all of us are ready to just go a little bit more punchy with the transformation. Like, we can handle snake. We don't need to just stay in butterfly energy. And that Vanessa's power page was such powerful snake goddess. We talked about a few times, different ones, but the snake appearing in your power page, and you stuck with that for a certain period of time. It didn't just, okay, I'm done with that after a week. I feel like that energy has been imbued, you know, in the last year through into this year, and snake is powerful. And this, you know, it's funny, it just stood out to me in the power gateway, and I feel like snake is a real punchy, strong transformative totem, spirit, force, energy, and we're all handling it. Like, it's big and powerful. This world's bonkers, and we need snake as much as butterfly, and we're holding that energy. So I'm not describing it very well. I feel like all of us as women have gone with that and are holding and carrying and can deal with snake medicine. It's not too strong, where maybe it would have been a little, for some, a hit and miss, or can't do too much of that, or it's a little bit too punchy and powerful right now. I needed to ease into it a few years ago. So some of these things that you get that feeling and that intuitive hit of are very hard to talk about. So I think Vanessa's comfort with that snake medicine and the snake goddesses and appearing in your power page has helped us all get there, and the amount of times it's come up gently. And I just feel like we're all running with it, but with both hands now. Some of us may have started dipping our toe into it in the last few years, but I feel like it's really now. Purpose. I just want to swing back around to the purpose thing. Another thing I was not expecting to come up in our power conversation was purpose. I have mixed feelings about this. Right, so I've gone on too long already. There were conversations of, and I've seen so many things. This is that synchronicity, again showing up, that I've read and seen and watched a few different things on purpose. Big purpose, little purpose. So purpose, as in what you do. A lot of people focus on that. I actually think that can change. So if my purpose is to be a shining light in the world, that's always resonated with me, because I was very, very, very young when a family member bought me a coaster back from holiday or something like that. You know, you used to have a lot of things back in the day that would give you the definition or a meaning of your name. So there's this coaster with Angela on it, and the meaning was bringer of light or giver of light or something. It was that internal yes. I was so young, but it was a real absolute inner knowing. I always loved having Angel in my name. Very young, I was spiritually inclined. I don't know what the thing is. And I just felt like, yes, that is what I'm here for. And I wasn't happy-go-lucky, carefree kid. You know, childhood was not fun. So really interesting. Old soul, abuse. I didn't embody it. It didn't look like that's what I was here to do. You know, once you work through some stuff, or you're in a place of safety, then you can start beaming that smile in the right way, and being that, you know, people do seem to talk about when I smile, or it's my enthusiasm that is palpable, whether I'm on a video or whatever. And there's something I can't put a finger on that is important. One of my just innate gifts is important. Now, how I bring light, and it tends to be love, inspiration, and helping people feel good about themselves and loving themselves as they are, could be through coaching 1 year, through healing, through writing a book. And that purpose part, the actual doing of it, the method at which you do it, I believe can change and evolve. And ultimately, we're here to be ourselves. There's the ultimate P, purpose, which is to be truly and wholeheartedly us. When Monica Garcia's class last year happened, I was on the call live, and I didn't have a deck of cards with me for some reason. And I asked her to pull a card for me. before I knew, I believe that was the session it was, and if you remember, it was this dog spirit card, and I didn't make a note of, which is be loyal to what you love. I didn't make a note of what the deck was. I hadn't paid any attention to that. And a year later, I've been given the deck. It was in my wish list, my Amazon wish list, and my mum buys me the Colette Baron Reid Spirit Animals deck. And the first card I draw out of it for myself is Dog Spirit. It's come up twice since. I have not drawn cards from it very often, particularly not for me. And this, when I got it more than once, I started to pay attention. So the second time I thought, okay, it's come up again. Does that mean I haven't been being loyal to what I love? Well, let me just say, it's just occurred to me that art would be one of those things. Don't be afraid to be loyal to what you love. Secondly, we are in Monica Garcia's class workshop this time round, Gateway 2, the long one, Sacred Arts, Divine Feminine, and we draw the card for ourselves after coming out of that beautiful meditation, I guess you'd call it. Sorry, just reading what my notes are about the pulling of the card. And I got Eagle Spirit, Spirit Has Your Back, which is really nice. And it was about the big picture, soaring above. And I wrote down immediately, I knew this was related to my big dreams. And my little thought that occurred to me, have I grown out of that yet? I couldn't believe I was doing this. I was having these thoughts. I do not know why old conditioning thoughts have been surfacing lately. I have a theory that it's since the cyst has gone, my body has been able to clear up, and I'm literally doing housekeeping. Like now that energy can move properly and things are a bit back to normal inside, I seem to be going through layers and layers, and maybe that's why this spiral has been such a significant symbol to me since, was it before I joined Priestess, or was it did it give birth during the, I think it was before, because they've been having the labyrinth in the church here in Skipton. So I think it was before. So I think it's been three to 4 years that this spiral, labyrinth and portals, vortices have been a thing for me. Now I'm seeing the real layery type of process of the spiral. And so I wrote, and so there has been a part of me that for some weird reason, I did a kind of check-in on my dreams, because I'm thinking of the transition now between nomadic, stopping the nomad thing, and having my heart hub home, which I see as a home for myself and a hub for my business and my community, virtual and physical, real life. It's real life. I've got to stop using that phrase. That's ridiculous. Online and in person. And, in studio, it's going to be far more about my life's work than having a television room. I've got I feel like it's quite a different vision for the same old box with a roof on it that everybody else lives in, but I feel like the energy is different. But because I got further and further away from it in material terms. The cyst meant I couldn't work instantly. I had to stop. I couldn't walk. So I was unable to do any pet sitting, which was the bulk of my income. Now, I always knew I was feeling I need to, how did I call it? Wean myself off of the pet sitting money. I need to do that. What I believe that was now in hindsight was the universe telling me, girl, you need to stop the dependency on that income. I didn't pay much attention, and I saw the solution as when I got well again was to just fill that calendar up with the good paying pet sits till I've paid off the overdraft and the credit card that I lived on, with the year practically a year that I was poorly and wasn't working. And I was still back in, I haven't got any other ideas, so that's that. And then the car went kaput before I could leave to go on my first one, to the tune of $2,000 that I didn't have. And it was one thing and another. I got that money, but the way I got that money was being prepaid by my uncle, who I do a lot of sitting for. So then I was going to be doing a lot of weeks of dog sitting and house sitting and the sort of things I do for him before getting paid again, for free. And so life's really been trying to steer me away sooner rather than later. Give me the more rocket up the jacksie than I'm going wean myself off of, and you know, all that sort of things. I'm still going comfort zone all the way. So I wrote down, it's okay to have the big dreams that you feel further away from than ever financially, time-wise. You know, my brain goes, I'm nowhere near there financially, and it will take a long time and it can't be done quickly. The whole of the rest of me knows it's like flicking a flipping switch. I may not know the how right now, but I just have to keep staying in tune, keep looking for the synchronicities and listening. But if I just keep working on melting that resistance away, doing tapping, whatever I need to do, an active affirmations practice, whatever I need to do to just keep rewiring that programming that for some reason has popped up its ugly head again. It came up when I was poorly with the cyst, and I recognised like I was the most negative that I'd ever been. Lackluster in energy, understandably, that part I suppose. Pain, the chronic pain, not chronic for life, but acutely chronic. All the time, which gets you down and affects your psyche and the way you think and so on. Depression got hold, even summer wouldn't lift it. You know, it really got me down low, and I thought, wow, this is not easy to come out of. This is not, some of my tools were not lifting me out of it as quickly as they had been. This was a lot harder work to do, and there was lots of other ramifications because of my lack of freedom, and I was stuck with needing to be at my dad's and his girlfriend. So there was other family shite happening because I had no choice but to be where I could be looked after as much as they're capable of looking after me. So I was doubting whether I should have those dreams, whether my dreams needed to change, whether my goals, whether I ought to have those dreams at all. Hello, permission giving. Didn't look at it like that. So I felt like the minute I saw Eagle Spirit, I knew that it was, your big dreams are fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You get up and above them and they're effortless. You just stay in tune with your intuition, and all of that can come as effortlessly as anything else. That it's okay that I saw that big picture, and keeping that wonderful eye for detail that you have will be enough, can do it. I always look at the base of the pack. Always look at the base of the pack. And this is what was at the bottom of the pack. And it needed to happen then. So this was time number 4 that it had come up for me. So it's really getting my attention now. And we'd had the conversation about purpose and the previous session. And in this class, I was like, this is what this is. The reason this is coming up a lot is because this isn't a one and done thing. This isn't saying, at the moment there's something you're not being loyal to, you know, just focus on being loyal to what you love. This is your life purpose. I just instantly knew it, that when I let the shit go and the shoulds and the musts and the have to and ought I do this, am I allowed to, me living where I can click my fingers and elevate myself from this financial position to that financial position, from lots of health issues to I'm free of them, and I'm, you know, my body is light and expansive. That leap, that quick leap, not having earned it, blood, sweat and tears, is okay. The reason that makes it doubly, triply okay, would be on its own, is that you doing that paves the way for other people, makes it so much easier for other people to do that. They don't just witness what you're doing, and yes, there will be plenty of people who have their own issues with that. There always will be, whatever we do, people who it pushes a button for them. But you are energetically helping draw people into this way of life, which is that once things are aligned and you've done the work and the body's taken care of, you know, had the op, done some of the self-care and the work that you do and your practices, it is absolutely okay that you then go boom and take an evolutionary leap and complete and utter permission to receive and receive and receive, and that's okay. Just a little aside in terms of these synchronicities and how much I feel it's speaking to me, and new layers and levels that these signs and symbols and synchronicities, I feel I've just mentioned them in the past and just gone, oh, here they are, and I've not said what I've done with them or what they mean or why, because I end up talking too long like now. I saw there's like a square design on Monica's top in that session. I would never ever have likened those to labyrinths and the circles and the spirals, because they tended to all be circular. However, there have been not just mazes, but some labyrinths that have been kind of square. But were it not for the fact that I received some happy mail that week, it may have even been that day, that had this incredibly funky spiral paperclip in it, squares. And I when I saw Monica's top, and I thought, spirals, she's literally turned up in the labyrinths, in the portals, in that power vortices that I've been talking about, the vortex all over her. And I probably wouldn't have thought that were it not for receiving a square one. So it's not only circles now, but we have a square. So a beautiful synchronicity that this happened in the same week, and that it just spoke to me a bit more about, that's why these things are so, when you circle around, you feel like, wow, this old thing, I thought that was long gone. We're going a bit deeper. We're really getting to some of the roots. It's can be a little bit painful when you're pulling things out by the root. This is quite old stuff. That extra layer of, there's always another layer of permission to go, I feel, or people can call it expansion, or opening up to, or receiving. So I feel like this settles, and I bet it stops coming up for me now. This feels like it has settled inside of me. I'm not confused about what it means. That my ultimate purpose, that being me, that I believe we all have, to be me, the way I am me is I don't engage in the world of work and 9 to 5. I tried. I've dabbled my toe in normal life. That's not me. And I don't fully give myself permission to really go as wild woman as I would be, because of that whole world I grew up in. Every single person I admire and who loves me the most, very much entrenched in that world. This is that real, your way of living life is to be loyal to everything you love. So that is completely led by intuition. And if it means sitting around, communing in nature outside, and then sitting around and creating art all day long, 7 days a week, then that is what it bloody well is, because who knows what's going to come of that and what will end up happening. But I hereby dedicate myself to being loyal to everything I love, to what matters most to me, and letting love lead the way. And not shoulds, musts, have tos, or fears. So who'd have thought that that's how my wild gateway would emerge? Sorry. I'm sorry. I can't keep them to 15 minutes. I do not know how to say anything in less than 15 minutes. I'm so sorry.